Hello folks. So today I wanted to speak about trends for 2022, and then I'm also going to give you a general overview for your sign. Remember, this is it's just a general forecast. So I would advise that you listen to both your moon sign as well as your rising sign. And again, this is according to the sidereal and not the tropical calculation. So please check your sidereal sign for this. If you're new to Jyotish, you can check out the chart calculator on my website, and it will tell you your moon and your ascendant sign. Yeah, so let's get into this. Now, before I begin, I want to point out something. I want to just say to those who, if you've been listening to astrology YouTube channels or reading astrology or studying astrology, what I wanted to really assert and hope that it sinks in somewhere. If astrology doesn't empower you, but rather it is creating more fear and doubt in your life, then please stay away from it. Even if it's for a little while, like just to take a break. You can just take a break and come back. And then one other thing is, don't overlook your own common sense, your own intuition for what astrology is telling you. Don't overlook that. That should come first. And of course, don't ignore logic and don't ignore your hunches for what astrology is telling you or for what an astrologer is telling you. Yeah. So, I think that's important to remember whenever we're watching videos, and because it's very easy to kind of get so absorbed into it that you start making decisions according to the astrology, and it starts to control your life. It should be empowering. It should be empowering you. So, yeah. Now, so let's get back to the 2022. Big question always is, should I see the transit from the ascendant or should I see the transit from the moon? Ascendant stands for your intellect. It's your intelligence. It's your personality. So the effects you experience are visible and can be therefore seen, can perhaps be seen by everyone. Whereas the moon, everything is happening at the mental, emotional levels. It may be more hidden, it may be more personal, more internal, and also perhaps more painful. So it may not be visible because it can be shielded by you. And as I always say, the dasha takes priority over the transits, but that doesn't mean that you ignore a powerful transit. Right? So if you're in a moon dasha, it doesn't mean you ignore a powerful nodal transit. You still must pay attention to that. But if you're in a Saturn dasha, then look at what Saturn is doing. Yeah, because you're going to resonate more with that in Saturn dasha. But if you want to follow the classics, what do the classics say? Well, the classics put more importance on the moon transit. Give that more importance than the ascendant. And frankly speaking, in my experience, I would agree with that. I place a bigger importance on the transits from the moon sign rather than the ascendant. Now, the first thing to notice about 2022 is that on the very first day, all the planets are caught in the nodal axis between Taurus and Scorpio. This is also known as the Kalsarp Yoga, which can bring fated events. It can bring unexpected changes, surprises. And when you see this yoga, whether it's in transit or whether it's in someone's chart, you often see a loss of will in certain areas of life. Yeah, and therefore things seem more fated It's sort of like life is happening to you, and you have no control or willpower to change or direct it in the way that you wish. So that's what I mean by the sense of fatedness, the strong karmic connections and circumstances can come to the fore. Unpredictable events can come to the fore, leaving you no option but to surrender your will and go with the flow. Right? I mean, that's the essence of the nodes anyway. So if we're seeing the planets all caught up in one place in the chart, like they're concentrated in one area, there's a complete imbalance. And therefore that imbalance can reflect in your life also. And that's kind of how it plays out. Now, when there is a planet that is conjoined the nodes in this yoga, like we'll have here with Mars most of the time, and then Moon also, that planet often becomes the catalyst for liberating us from the illusion, because it's all an illusion anyway, from the illusion of having to experience that sense of fatedness. So the suffering that takes place with these developments can, of course, strengthen the mind, and it can, of course, mellow your outlook. And then periods of times when this yoga comes into place can be quite memorable because, you know, we talk about, just generally, like we talk about adverse transits and tough transits and challenging transits. But if you look at your life and you look back, those are times when you're often forced to make changes, compelled to make changes that you wouldn't have otherwise done. And then you look back and think, oh yeah, okay. If things are going well and things are going smoothly all the time, then you wouldn't actually probably make any changes, and there wouldn't be any growth. Your life would be stagnant. So periods of time when this yoga comes into play can be, for that reason, can be quite memorable, because collectively and individually we will experience situations that will force our hand, that will compel us to move in a certain direction. And maybe that direction wasn't even an option. It came around because of this particular transit. And of course, when you're experiencing in that moment, it may cause distress, it may cause discomfort. And of course it will, because things are out of your control. So naturally, it will cause those feelings. There is instability, there is unpredictability, and then therefore there is anxiety. But what happens is that in the long run, we can see with a new perspective, because the growth has taken place in us, in our character, in the circumstances in our life. And when that growth takes place in your perspective, in your character, in some degree in your nature, then the person that you become, you actually wouldn't want to go back to being the person that you were before. Right? So in the long run, we will see the situation with a fresh perspective. Why were the currents forcing us in these two directions? Because when it's happening, I think this is with most people. Like no one likes change that's forced upon us, right? Change that happens that is forced, that's unpredictable, that's difficult, is not welcome by anyone, really. But it often pushes us towards amazing leaps of growth, because it propels us into a path that we would never have thought to walk down otherwise. And this is going to be one of those years. It's going to be a year to put down new roots, start anything new. It could be a relationship, it could be a career, it could be a new home. But now, how do you see where you get impacted? So the concentration of energy is in Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Aquarius. Right? So see what you've got in those 4 signs. Whether you're going through a dasha of a planet sitting in those 4 signs. All planets in the Gala Yoga are moving towards Rahu, which usually indicates material growth. Except for Venus. The reason being that Venus is in retrograde motion and therefore is moving towards Ketu. And I spoke about this in the Venus retrograde video as well. Yeah. See where Taurus and Scorpio fall in your chart. See it from both the moon, see it from the ascendant to get clues of what areas of your life are going to get impacted. And then also see where the Mars and Moon, what Mars and Moon rule in your chart for where you will be impacted, because Mars and Moon are going to be the catalyst for change. Because Moon is responsible for breaking this yoga every 15 days until April. And Mars is sitting in that axis with Ketu. Now, what else is happening? So that's how the year starts. In 2022, we're going to see a lot of activity and a lot of drama around 3 zodiac signs. 2 of Saturn's signs, Capricorn and Aquarius, to see what they represent for you. As well as Pisces, as we have the Sol moving, Jupiter and Saturn moving through these signs throughout the year. I'm also going to speak about the nodes because there's a transition happening in the Rahu-Ketu axis at the same time that Jupiter and Saturn make a move. So this will be a very important turning point for many people, irrespective of what your dasha says. Yeah, that April is going to be a turning point for everyone in some way or the other. Capricorn is what action denotes karma, right? Aquarius is the spirit of independence, going your own way. Pisces is liberation. Pisces is about letting go. So the theme of the year is going to be centered around taking action, going your own way, and then, of course, surrendering with faith, ultimately. This Capricorn energy has been prevalent for 2 years now, especially when both Jupiter and Saturn were transiting there together. And of course we can't forget Pluto. Pluto's been sort of coming, it's in the beginning degrees of Capricorn. But now this Capricorn energy will start to dissipate and it'll start to dissolve, and you may be faced with a crossroads where you have to make a decision. You may have to experience a loss first, right? And then you may have to go it alone for a while. And then as Jupiter enters Pisces, there's a feeling of relief. There's a feeling of completion. There's a better path staring at you. Right? There's a feeling of hopefulness and optimism because Jupiter does very well in Pisces. Capricorn is rooted in pragmatic approach toward life and relationships. It's a very basic sign, and it deals with very basic needs, and it's a very dry sign. Therefore, everything is devoid of philosophy, of emotion. When there's a difficult association with Saturn, then some basic needs may not be met. Right? Food, clothing, medicine. And that's kind of what we've seen in the last couple of years. But Saturn is on its way out, and this will be the final year of Saturn moving through Capricorn. With the exception of a few months, a few spring months when Saturn moves into Aquarius. We'll see that in 2022 actually. Now the Nakshatras that are getting impacted this year, let's talk about that. The Nakshatra that gets impacted this year is Dhanishta. Now the nature of Saturn is to invoke, sometimes cruelly, sometimes heartlessly, but justly, the energy of the nakshatra where it is transiting. So Dhanishta actually has a very special role to play this year because it is at that juncture between Capricorn and Aquarius. Its strength, its Shakti is abundance, fame. Dhanishta causes abundance. The deity, the 8 Vasus, they have a deep connection with sound as well. And Dhanishta also means to bring to earth, to bring back to earth. It's a vacuum, which is basically just like sucking things from one particular zone to another particular zone. So what does that mean? Essentially, it's about manifesting things into reality. It's kind of like a make it happen type of energy, yeah. So if we interpret it in the myth, like if we use a mythology, then you think of that Shiva's drum. It's a drum. It's called Tumru, and it's that rhythm. It's that particular rhythm. So basically, it's that rhythm. It's through that rhythm, through that sound, that makes things manifest. Essentially, that's what Dhanishta is. Right. So whenever you have a planet that's moving through it, that's activating that. So Saturn will move through there. All of actually, starting in I think late January, February. Starting in February of 2022, all year Saturn will be going through Dhanishta. It will slip back into. It will go into Aquarius, but it'll still be in Dhanishta, and then it will slip back into Capricorn and still stay in the same nakshatra. So what does that mean? That means that there's going to be the urges to take ideas and manifest them. It's a very bold go-getter type of nakshatra, yeah. But again, because we're talking about Saturn, that can bring delays. You'll have that urge, but be prepared for some delays. Of course, Dhanishta doesn't give up easily, and they're tireless. So so if there's a mission, if there's a purpose, and you're driven by that purpose, by that goal, then you won't rest until you achieve it. And again, look at how are you impacted by Dhanishta? Like, look at what's there. Like, do you have Lagna there? Do you have Lagna Lord there? Do you have Moon there? Do you have your Dasha planet there? Hey, do you have your AK planet there? Yeah, so all of those are important points in a chart. Jupiter, in fact, also starts the year in Dhanishta and then quickly moves into Shatabisha and then will move into Purvabhadra. And Jupiter in Shatabisha is a good time to take advice from experts because at the same time, Rahu is so strongly placed in Taurus. It's also a good time to do any sort of community or service-orientated work. Yeah, for those few months. And then while Jupiter is in Purvabhadra, if you ever thought about adopting an animal, it's a good time to do that. It's also a good time to turn vegetarian, if you considered it. From April 13th till the end of the year, Jupiter will be strong in its own sign of Pisces. And while Jupiter's transiting Uttarabhadra, that's actually an excellent time to travel, especially to faraway lands, and especially to experience different cultures that are very different from yours. Other important dates to watch for are eclipse times. And so the movement of Rahu and Ketu also is important in this way. Rahu will leave Taurus around the same time Jupiter moves into Pisces. So Rahu will leave Taurus for Aries, and Ketu will leave Scorpio for Libra starting on April the 12th. And then the first eclipse is also in April, on the 30th of April, in the sign of Aries, caused by Rahu in Bharani at this time. Now, we have another eclipse on May the 16th in Scorpio. Last one in this sign, but in Vishaka. Then we have another one on October 26th in Libra in Swathi. And finally, the last one will be in Aries on November the 8th in the Nakshatra Bharani. So now, for most of 2022, the air and fire signs will experience the most dramatic changes, especially Aries and Libra. Now, this is even more so if you have any planets here, or if you're, again, as usual, your sun, moon, or ascendant are there, then you will be directly impacted. It could also be that your dasha planet is sitting in, and when I say dasha planet, look at Antardasha also, right? Like if you're in Jupiter dasha, look at what Antardasha you're in. Rahu, Saturn, what have you. Because those are slow moving planets. So they're gonna impact you. So if your dasha planet is in that Aries Libra axis. Of course, if you have planets in Vishaka and Bharani and Swathi, have a look at those planets. They're lordships. And if you have planets there, you will be directly impacted by the eclipses of 2022. April and May are probably going to be the most, I would say the most dramatic months of 2022. And then things will mellow down during the summer, and then late October, early November, again, we have some big shifts happening for many people. Now, one other important transit happening is Mars retrograde. Starting its journey at 1 degree of Gemini in Mrigashira on October the 30th, and ending its journey on January the 12th, 2023 at 14 degrees of Taurus in Rohini. Mars at this time is clear of all malefic aspects throughout this transit. And Mars will be transiting alone, which is also a good thing. Of course, Gemini and Taurus are directly impacted here, but so is Aries and Scorpio, because Mars is ruling planet of those signs. I'm going to speak more. I'm going to obviously I'll make a video about that separately later in the year. So now let's look at the signs. I'm actually going to place the focus on the Jupiter and Saturn movement when I talk about each sign. So these are just some highlights as usual, right? Like it doesn't mean exactly this is going to happen with you, but as I said, your dasha takes them prevalent and whatever else is going on in your birth chart, etc. All right, so let's start with Aries as usual. Aries, you may experience more shifts in your career, your image, your position. All the action takes place in the 10th and 11th house till April. There's also favorable yoga that Saturn's transit in Capricorn is forming for Aries, called the Sash Yoga, which can help boost all matters related to career, image, and bringing higher status, but not without hard work. Right? Now, it can adversely affect these areas as well, but until something, and it's not always the case, but until something adversely affects an area, you don't look to make serious changes, right? So that can be the impetus for the change. So if there are changes that need to be made in your life, then you can certainly do that with your career and your image and how you make money, because of the 10th and 11th houses being impacted. But that you will have to work hard for that, as you may have been doing in the past 2 years with work-related stuff, career-related stuff. In April, there's a big shift for you because Rahu moves into Aries and Jupiter moves into your 12th house. Jupiter starts the year in the 11th house, which is a very auspicious transit. So you can strive for your dreams, your ambitions. With a little risk-taking, you can achieve them. And Jupiter's movement into Pisces can bring some, it's 12th house, so it's expanding that 12th house, so it can bring some expenses, perhaps related to home matters, right? Because it's aspecting the 4th house from there. 12th house is also long distance travel. If you wanted to take a spiritual type of pilgrimage, this transit is supportive for that. Jupiter also aspects 8th house, so it's a good year for taking some risk with investments. And with Rahu moving into your sign, you will see a big transition in your life. Yeah, that's inevitable whenever Rahu moves through our where our moon or ascendant is. It's a time for new beginnings for you, certainly, especially with matters related to business, relationships. Income could see an increase. It could be another source of income as well. Be mindful of health because stress can be high with all the changes, especially in the second half of 2022. But overall, it's an eventful year. Because of the eclipse axis in Aries and Libra. It's also because your ruling planet Mars starts the year in the nodal axis, forming that Gal Sarp yoga, and it ends in retrograde. So again, pay attention to stress levels and your general well-being and things like that. Yeah. Taurus, all the action for you is happening in the 9th and 10th house till April. You've got Yogarka Saturn transiting your 9th house, and that's a big blessing, and that will protect you to a great degree. It's a beneficial position for Taurus, and it can take you to new heights, provided that you place some effort toward your goals. Now, from April, you have another auspicious shift as Jupiter moves into your 11th house, which is excellent. It's excellent for achievements of any kind. It's good for your married life. It's good for all partnerships and making new connections. Rahu leaving your zone, Taurus, your house, is also a relief. And it's going to start transiting the 12th house now. So you may experience a move. You may experience the opportunity to travel, some long distance travel. But this transit of Rahu usually creates restlessness, the 12th house transit. It can also create some problems with sleep, so be aware of that. So maybe meditation practices can help, or some practice in your life where you can just calm the mind and feel relaxed. Your intimate relationships, including marriage or serious partnerships, will also go through some changes in the first half of the year, and perhaps have already been going through those changes with Ketu moving through Scorpio. If there was a breakup of sorts, then this Jupiter's move into Pisces will definitely allow you to meet someone new, someone that you like a lot. Now, because the Kal Sarp yoga is taking place in Taurus and Scorpio, this suggests some unforeseen changes in the beginning of the year for you. Again, it can play out with partnerships, marriage, serious relationships, due to that Mars and Ketu in Scorpio. Yeah, but once Jupiter moves into Pisces, you're going to see some blessings with these changes. Right? You might look back and think, maybe it's good that breakup happened. It's a good year for Taurus, and it gets better. After March, April, it gets a lot better. Gemini, for you, 8th and 9th houses are being impacted. Saturn in your 8th can mean some restrictions when it comes to matters of loans, finances. So I would say just be cautious in your spending. It can also sometimes bring disappointments in relationships, especially if you've got a Gemini moon, because this is that Ashtama Shani transit for you. Though with Jupiter in the 9th house till April, you could be feeling optimistic in this area of life. Some travel could feature, and that would be highly beneficial for you. Jupiter moving into your 10th house in April is good for all of your domestic situations and could also improve your finances. From April onward, your luck changes for the better, as Rahu goes into the 11th house, which is a very lucky transit. Rahu in the 11th can bring new connections, new relationships, new source of income, definitely new friendships. Things will manifest quickly because we're talking about Aries here, and Rahu does well in the 11th house. Yeah, it's a great time to take chances. Yeah, and you could meet someone special also at this time, if you didn't do so with that Jupiter transit through Aquarius. Yeah. For Cancer, what's happening? So for Cancer, the 7th and 8th houses are getting activated due to Jupiter and Saturn's movement through them. There is also the Sash Yoga happening for you because of Saturn's transit. And the Sash Yoga, see it from your ascendant only, right? For Cancer ascendant. So that will make you more practical. It will force you to kind of avoid uncertainties that lead to fearful situations, especially in relationships. It's a good time to develop or even start new relationships for Cancer ascendant. It can make you more sincere with your work, with your career, but you'll have to pick your job. So contemplate when you're switching gears, as you're gonna have many choices. Jupiter moving through the 8th house can bring some changes, but it's your 6th lord in your 8th house, so this will help you with career matters. And if you are experiencing some illness of any kind, then you'll find a solution. Yeah, so when Jupiter shifts into Pisces in April, you'll see an overall life improvement from here it aspects Cancer as well as your 5th house. So it's an excellent transit for you. Rahu's movement into Aries is also good for you, as this is your 10th house, and you will start to get noticed more in your career, and your big plans will also start to materialize. So overall, it's a very good year post April, especially. Saturn, of course, will make you serious about settling down and putting down some roots this year. So Leo, what's happening for you? Again, the 6th and 7th houses are getting activated until April. So it's actually a very good 6th house Saturn transit for you. And it can lead to all kinds of promotions and growth in your work. It can also actually lead to new, healthier routines. So like some health issues may pop up, which will compel you to kind of look for solutions, and you will find good solutions, workable solutions. Yeah. Jupiter moving through your 7th house is, of course, very auspicious for relationships, for marriage, for partnerships of all kind, especially committed partnerships, business dealings of all kind. It's overall a good transit because it's aspecting your lugna, and therefore you're being perceived in a aspecting your 1st house. Jupiter here can bring a sense of optimism, and its aspect on your 11th house is great for increasing contacts, income, fulfilling your goals. Yeah. Then it goes into your 8th house in April and aspects the 4th and 12th houses from there. So themes related to moving residence, long distance travel, and those sorts of things are featured. Yeah. Travel is, in fact, highly featured this year, as when we start the year, the Galsarp yoga impacts the Moon and Mars. So Moon being your 12th lord and Mars being your 9th lord. Yeah. There's also some aspect of letting go as well because of that 12th lord association. And this could be related to your home. So you may be moving. And for some people, it could be related to their family relationships, as that Galsarp is impacting your 4th house. Rahu moves from your 10th house to your 9th house, and this can shift your mindset to travel. Again, taking a new path in life, right? Rahu may here shake up some of your old belief system, and and change that, so you can shift your philosophies, your perspectives, and give you a new direction in life, rejecting the outdated beliefs, and especially if they were very traditional beliefs. Yeah. And it's a good year to consider a spiritual pilgrimage if you ever thought about doing that. Yeah. For Virgo, this is going to activate your 5th and 6th houses, so it's a good time to focus on health matters. Saturn moving through your 5th house could mean that your children need more attention and care. There may be some disagreements with your significant other as well at this time. And this could see you looking for additional sources of income. Jupiter in the 6th house may bring some problems to the surface, so you can finally deal with them. When Jupiter moves into Pisces in your 7th house, you will receive the blessings of Jupiter. People will perceive you in a more favorable light. Any issues that you had with your relationships you will find an amicable solution. This Jupiter transit will give your confidence a boost, and it's aspecting your 11th house of gains from here. So here you could, in fact, see a turning point with the hardships that Saturn has perhaps brought in the last 2 years. Rahu moving into Aries in your 8th house may bring some unwanted changes, so be aware of that, some ups and downs, so be prepared for that. If you paid attention, though, to your health and finances, then this Rahu transit will not impact you adversely. Libra, what's happening for you? So for you, the 4th and 5th houses are getting activated in the early part of the year. So you could still be feeling out of sorts with that Saturn in your 4th house, especially if you are a Libra moon. But Jupiter in your 5th house will balance this out. It will give you an energetic boost, and you'll feel lighter, more confident as it happens, as it aspects your 1st house. Whether it's moon or ascendant, it's a good transit. When Jupiter moves into Pisces in April, it will transit your 6th house. Jupiter's not the best planet for Libra, so you can see some health issues pop up here when Jupiter moves into the 6th house. But it will be a good time to review those health issues. It will be a good time to sort of recalibrate your daily routines. Take more time for rest, good food, exercise, that kind of thing. Work will be good during this phase. Rahu's movement into Aries in April is a big transit for you. And that's your 7th house. So the relationships are going to take up your full attention now. If you're coupled up, then you may see some surprises crop up with regard to your partner, or you could also be second guessing yourself about their role in your life. If you're single, you will be very keen to find a partner, and you will have many opportunities to do so. So lots of changes in store for you due to the eclipse axis shifting to Libra and Aries. So Scorpio, what's happening for you? Well, for you, your 3rd and 4th houses are getting impacted. So it's still a good Saturn transit for you. Any kind of competition, you'll do very well, whether it's work, whether it's sport. Both Jupiter and Saturn are actually in a favorable spot for you this year. Jupiter moving into Pisces in your 5th house in April is even more auspicious than its current position in your 4th house. So it's a strong year for you. Even Rahu from April onward moves into your 6th house. So that's another excellent transit. You could find solutions to long-standing conflicts, to problems, to health matters. Because that Galsarp yoga starts in Taurus and Scorpio, be watchful of health issues, as Mars, being your ruling planet, is with Ketu there. Yeah, it's a great year to make changes to your image, to your appearance, even perhaps getting a boost to your social status. You could finally leave a bad relationship behind and meet someone very much to your liking. Yeah, so overall good year. Sagittarius, for you, Saturn remains in your 2nd house. So for those with Sagittarius moon, you are finishing up that Sadhi Sati this year. So that's great news. Jupiter starts off the year in your third house, so it could give a boost to income matters and bring some blessings with making new connections and meeting new people, right? Because of its aspect to the 7th and 11th. If you wanted to meet someone special, make an effort and take the initiative, right? Third house. If you put the effort in, you will see the results. Jupiter movement into Pisces in April will also be positive for you, as it will be moving into your 4th house. So you'll be feeling more optimistic, more content. And this could further balance that challenging Saturn transit in your 2nd house. Rahu switching to Aries in April will mean a transit to your 5th house. And this will make risk-taking activities appealing and more opportunities coming your way if you wanted to do something creative. It's also aspecting your sign, giving you a confidence boost. If you have children, well, this may bring some challenges there, right? So look out for that. They may not be responding to you in the way that you want. Capricorn, this is another intense but important year for you. Saturn is still moving through your sign, giving you some stresses in all areas of life, whether it's partnership, career, domestic front. Jupiter in Aquarius will feel like a relief, as moving through your 2nd house, it can give you some relief with family issues that may have come up over the past 2 years. It can help you resolve them. Jupiter is not a particularly favorable planet for you. In April, when it moves into your 3rd house, it will positively impact your 9th house of higher knowledge, of religion, of trust. Rahu in the 5th would have brought some risk-taking activities, but also issues could have come up with your children that were unexpected, and dealing with them may have also been difficult during this Rahu in the 5th house transit. From April, Rahu moves into your 4th house, making you very, it can make you very restless with your home surroundings, and it can also give you a disinterest in your career life. So a move could be on the cards for you, April onward. Rahu in the 4th can just bring general discontent with your surroundings. Its aspect on the 11th, though, can bring a sudden foreign trip or relocation if there's other things that are supporting this in the chart. Yeah. Aquarius, what's happening for you? Aquarius, for you, the 12th and the 1st houses are being activated. If you are an Aquarius moon, then you've been experiencing the beginning of your Sati period. Saturn through your 12th can give you some losses and stresses, including family issues. But Jupiter's transit through your 1st house is very positive and can lead to a boost in confidence levels. It can benefit your relationships, generally all relationships, and it can help make new connections for you also. When Jupiter moves into Pisces, it will connect with your 2nd house, also an excellent transit. Great time to heal some family issues, if there were some, and there could have been some with the challenging Saturn transit. You will also have an excellent Rahu transit this year in the 3rd house. It can give you the confidence to take new risks, try new things, increase your income, increase your connections. If you're single, it's an excellent time to date, as you will have many choices. Because the Kal Sarp happening in the beginning of the year impacts your 4th and 10th house, you could see some shifts in career as well this year. A change in job or residence is possible. Especially with Mars, your 10th Lord strongly placed in Scorpio. Also be cautious of health matters, as it could be very busy year for you, Aquarius, yeah? So finally, Pisces. Pisces, your 11th and 12th houses are getting activated. Positive year for you. Your work and career changes are possible. You'll gain a lot through the changes that you make this year. So don't hesitate to make some shifts in your life. Saturn has been moving through your 11th house, which is excellent. And it can bring the right people and opportunities in your life when you need them the most. And this is actually the best transit of Saturn. So the people and circumstances that have come into your life are something to hang on to, something to cherish. Yeah. It's an excellent transit that you're going to have for Jupiter also. Jupiter's in the 12th house currently, which is good for travel. It's good for home and property related matters. It can increase your expenses, so look out for that. But Jupiter enters your first house in April, so fantastic. April onward, Jupiter and Saturn are very, very supportive. You'll feel much more positive. You'll feel much more confident. Rahu moves into your second house in April. Here you can see more career opportunities, especially opportunities to make more money also. Though family life could take a back seat with this Rahu transit. Both Saturn and Jupiter transits are very supportive, so it's an excellent year for you, Pisces, yeah? Well, that's all for now, folks, and wishing everyone a very healthy and successful year. Yeah, cheers.